Karl, I was watching you and Eric. You were filling in for Anthony Cumia today.
Yeah, actually, yesterday I posted it on our Patreon today. So if you're a member of our Patreon or Supercast, you can watch us filling in for Anthony. We did a 2-hour show last night, and maybe you and I can get into this as well. We were breaking down. I did a show with Shuley and the guys Sunday night. We had Dr. Drew Pinsky on the show, and we were showing him video evidence that John might have a problem with alcohol and getting his take since he is an expert on these matters.
Did he eventually make a judgment one way or the other?
Well, Dr. Drew is a professional. So, he's got a reputation, professional reputation. So he didn't come out and just say, yeah, it looks like John's an alcoholic. All we did was show him some evidence that he gets drunk on the internet and does a lot of things that alcoholics might do. But it was interesting when Drew went through his checklist of things where you say, okay, this is how you kind of determine if someone has a problem with a substance. They're losing money, they're losing friendships, relationships, professional relationships, jobs, like everything he said, you could check the box next to Stuttering John. Going, okay, yeah, this seems to fit the mold.
Well, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago when all this Dabblerverse just got so insane and it got way over my head. I could only rely on what you provided, and that had to be enough because I just couldn't spend that many hours watching that many shows. It was insane. It was over my head. And I thought about it. I thought about it professionally, and I thought, God, that would be so weird if my life depended on Stuttering John. And, in your case, I saw you had Jocktober. You were going over the Bob and Tom show, and I was like, oh, good, Karl's still doing his regular show. Stuttering John is just a piece of the action. But some of these other shows, John is like heroin to them. What happens? I mean, I would want to go a month or so without talking about John just to prove that I could do a show and I didn't need this guy, this idiot, in order to provide material for me. But if you didn't use Stuttering John for a week or a month, wouldn't your numbers just die? I mean, some of these other shows that rely on him.
Oh, 100%. And actually, there's an issue right now because I don't know if you know this, but John got his YouTube channel taken down, suspended for a week. And the reason is because someone pranked him. He thought he was talking to this guy, Dabble Story, who comes on the show, but never shows himself on camera. He just has an image he uses. So John, Dabble Storian's British. This guy was Australian. It's not even close, but John's an idiot. So he's letting Dabble Storian talk and the fake Dabble Storian. And then all of a sudden, this guy puts up an image of a woman doing number 2 while someone's screaming the N-word and talking about murdering our current president.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
So John couldn't get that taken down fast enough, but he still got a 1-week suspension from YouTube.
How long was it up there, Karl?
It was a good 10 seconds. And you watch him panic, he's crazy. Like, whoa!
Oh, my God.
He was falling off a cliff. Whoa!
No, so, why would someone do that to him, though? Because that means there's no John for a week.
I know. People take it a little bit too far, in my opinion, but you can't control the audience, obviously. So what happened was John decided, well, first he tried to fight it, but YouTube said no. And I think that's a weird policy because he's not the one who put that video up. It was a guest on his show.
I'm the victim.
But, are they really going to do an investigation where, so you thought it was this British guy from the Dabble Storian, but it's really an Australian Dabble Storian, and you didn't know? No, they don't do investigations like that, do they?
No. Ultimately, he's responsible for what shows up on his channel. Correct.
Yes.
So he's got to do a better job getting links out to people he trusts, for sure.
Or developing a lifestyle where people aren't constantly pranking him.
Well, yeah, that's a lot to ask.
Yes.
So unfortunately, he's suspended for a week. So what John has come out and said is that he's quitting the Dabbleverse. This has opened his eyes. Now, remember, he did this a couple of weeks ago, too, after talking to Collective Soul, and he thought that it was too toxic and he was going to stop, but then he came back. But he's going to quit the Dabbleverse. He's not going to do any more shows about this. He's just going to talk politics, just going to do his regular show for Patreon members.
That'll fail.
And he said, and also, I'm taking my girl, and we're going to Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
And it was just this weird thing. I'm like, you haven't talked about a vacation coming up or anything. Now, all of a sudden, you and your girl are going to Jamaica. So then...
Well, does he take exotic vacations? I've never known him to do that.
No, me neither. The last time he was in Mexico for like a stand-up gig or something, he wouldn't shut up about it.
But I know exactly where you're going with this because I follow John, and I was seeing him post pictures from his vacation, and I was like, oh, wow, that looks pretty nice. And then you click on it.
Oh, he could use a week in Jamaica, too, to get some sun and dry out.
Then you quickly realize that somebody did a reverse Google image search, and they found, no, this picture exists on a different website of Jamaica, you liar.
What?
Well, the best is, because there's so many sleuths out there. You can't fool the entire internet. All right. So John posts these pictures of his Jamaican trip the first day, and already there's some weird stuff going on because there's a pool at nighttime. You're like, didn't you just land this morning? How is there a pool at nighttime? That's weird. But the other thing was he took a photo of this restaurant, and in the background of this restaurant there's an advertisement for a festival that happened in 2019. So people started doing some research, like, does this festival even happen anymore? It doesn't.
He got busted the first day?
Immediately. It
Oh
was
my
on
God.
Cameras Anonymous.
A great sleuth.
Why would he post pictures? That's so stupid.
He's an idiot. And then now he's posting more photos. He's like, I took these from my phone, and they're low res and they're 1:1 aspect ratio. So I think that now he's trying to pretend like, oh, I knew you guys wouldn't fall for it. I was just trolling you. You know what I mean?
Oh,
He'll
right.
Figure something out.
Oh, brother.
He'll figure out some kind of angle. So anyway, but then, so he quits the Dabbleverse. And, people are putting out videos. What are we going to do? Is John going to come back? I did a whole Stuttering John roundtable event on my YouTube channel on Friday that was called Point Dabble Point. And on there, I had Shuley and Bob Levy and the great Tukey, producer Chris. And the five of us debated what's the future of John? What's he going to do? Where's he going to go from this? And it turns out John posted the day after he said he quit the Dabbleverse. He will do other people's shows for $1,000 an hour. That's the start. That's the starting rate for the negotiations. $1,000 an hour.
Will anyone in the Dabbleverse pay him $1,000 to do a show?
They have in the past.
That's true. Kevin Brennan gave him $3,000, but I can't imagine.
That's pretty
anyone's gonna
steep.
do this.
That's a lot of money. I don't think you can monetize it, can you?
Well, hold on. What about this, though? Someone had a brilliant idea that they tweeted at me. What if we hired him for just, 3 minutes? Whenever that works out to $30, whatever that is going to cost us, just to yell at him to his face and tell him he's an idiot. That might be worth it.
1 hour minimum.
I guess with super chats, I suppose you could probably pay for it. I don't know. Would that pay for it? Super chats alone?
Not at this point. If John were to go away again for a couple of months and a lot built up, he's only been gone since Thursday. So it's like, we're not at that point yet where everyone needs to hear from him.
We don't miss him yet.
Yeah.
Does anyone have, I'm just curious if in the, the Shuley network or some of these places, because there are a lot of people that depend on this guy for material and for shows and for super chats and for income. Do people have any kind of backup plan? Like, okay, what if John drops dead tomorrow? What are we going to do? Or do you think nobody has gotten that far?
No.
I can't answer that question because John's already gone away from the internet once before.
Yeah, for a long time.
And he was gone for 8 months. And we were talking about him because we had DabbleCon coming up in Rochester at the beginning of February. So we continued to find old clips and we were talking about him and speculating what's going on and things like that. But by the time John came back, I was pretty much had moved on with my life. We were doing very different things on these podcasts. We discovered Chad Zumach. We had other things going on to talk about. So since he's come back, all these new shows have cropped up. And there's a lot of different shows that are talking about John now. So they'll have to pivot.
Karl, it's like 15 shows now, isn't it?
It's got to be. It's got to be. And 15 shows that I personally enjoy. There's probably 100 shows that there's a bunch I don't even know about yet.
He's like podcast heroin, isn't he?
He's the best. He's the best fodder for anyone. And it's because it's impossible to wrap your head around a person actually existing in this world who's as dumb as he is.
So aloof.
And puts it all up on the internet. And the reason why we got Dr. Drew, and props to Shuley for getting Dr. Drew, that was a big get for us, was Dr. Drew did this amazing bit on Howard Stern back in the day where he made them all take this test to determine how narcissistic each person on the show is.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. They talked about that forever.
What's that?
They talked about that for years.
Yes, they talked about it for years. It was a big deal because Robin Quivers was like a 34. She was off the charts for narcissism. And it really bothered her. Narcissists don't like to be called out. So it really bothered her for a long time. So Shuley's thought was, can we get Drew to come on and determine what rating we would give John as far as the narcissism scale. Now, Dr. Drew's like, no, I need him to actually take this test and I would need to do this analysis. And he can't just watch videos and go, yep, he's a narcissist. He's actually a professional.
Well, I mean, he could.
He could if he wanted to. He tried to get him to.
I think it's pretty clear he's a raging narcissist. He's the most unaware person. He has no self-awareness. That's really what makes him so much fun, I think.
Yeah, for 100%. Because whenever we call him out on stuff, rather than him looking at that and going, oh, you know what? I could be better. His immediate response is, were you on the Howard Stern show? Were you the announcer for the Tonight Show? Like, he just always falls back on his glory days. He never thinks,
I'm
we're
the
going to be doing
star.
better right now.
I'm the star.
Yeah, he thinks being the most famous that's the big win, is being the best known person, whether it's being a
He sounds
buffoon.
like Brandon when Brandon's bragging about his college career. It's like, all right, man, I know you went to a technical institute and everything, but live in the now.
The Kareem Abdul-Jabbar roast, that's my favorite credit that he talks about. I just love it anytime he mentions that. I don't know why that makes me so thrilled, but it does.
Oh, because it's ridiculous. The way he describes what he did on that roast is he's sitting there watching it and just scribbling down jokes and just handing them out to the different NBA players to go up there and write out these jokes. When in reality, and unfortunately this doesn't exist, the video of the whole show doesn't exist.
Oh, man.
But I've seen clips of it that people have put out. And the reality is, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with like these celebrity roasts. Maybe you've been a part of ones that were local with local personalities. And so you got a TV guy or a radio guy and they do the roast. It's just old war stories. People get up and they go, you won't believe this one time he showed up so late to his slide, and things like that. They don't actually go up there and tell jokes like a roast. So professional athletes specifically do not do that.
No, because
they're not going to sit there and read your jokes that you wrote for them.
No, look at
they don't
Norman
want to. They don't want to
ESPYs.
blast the shit out of their buddies because they don't want them blasting the shit out of them, and they all, I think, share certain secrets that they probably don't want anyone to know. So it's not really you're never going to find a Greg Giraldo in the NBA.
Right, correct. They don't have a good sense of humor usually. These athletes.
No, not about themselves. But
so I heard you guys before I came on here talking about the misinformation, disinformation. I have a great show for us lined up today because Roseanne Barr, who is proud of the fact that she is not just QAnon, she's whatever the next thing is. She's already beyond QAnon. She's got the next thing going on. And she had this guy on, Eddie Bravo. And if you don't know who Eddie Bravo is, I got to know him from Joe Rogan. I think most people did. But according to the internet, Eddie Bravo is an American martial arts instructor, podcaster, stand-up comedian, and musician. After earning a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2003, Bravo began teaching his own self-developed style of Jiu-Jitsu and founded the 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Now, Eddie Bravo is a flat earther.
cool. Oh, come on,
He's
really?
been talking about this for years.
Still?
Yeah, still, that's what I thought too, Drew, because when I actually listened to the first part of this on Who Are These Podcasts last week, and so I didn't get to the rest of it, so I wanted to save that for you guys. But the first part of it, I was like, I know Eddie Bravo's out there. He's got some crazy conspiracy theories, but there's no way he's still a flat earther. Someone like Joe or someone's going to take him aside and be like, buddy, come here, listen to me. You got to stop it with this. Fun is fun, but let's get it under control. But apparently, no, he's still all in on this topic.
And does he do a lot of stand-up? Because that just doesn't sound like the average description of a stand-up comedian. I mean, the jiu-jitsu stuff, that's one thing, but being a flat earther, really?
I've never seen him do stand-up. That's why I said I'm reading this from the internet, because I didn't know that he was a musician or a stand-up.
What's the point of his podcast? Is it usually about stuff like the flat Earth? Or
Yeah,
conspiracy theories?
he's deep into conspiracies and the New World Order and simulation theory.
Illuminati.
Simulation.
Yeah.
Well, there's a market for that.
There is.
Oh, before we get into this, though, because I just want to point this out, based on the boner line callers that I heard come in,
Don't pay
People
attention to the
think- hold on.
borderline, Carl.
people think Anthony Fauci
Oh, here we go.
is and was perfect, even though I explained specifically what he did as far as funding gain-of-function research on coronavirus and funding the Wuhan lab. And people are just like, what does Karl know what he's talking about? I mean, just look it up. It's right there. But now it's coming out, based on reporting by Matt Taibbi and some other sources, that Fauci was actively working with the CIA, State Department, and the White House to suppress evidence that COVID-19 came from a lab. So do your research, guys. Fauci's not a great guy.
No, that's been out there for a long time. I mean, it's really disturbing, and the pedestal that he was put on was ridiculous.
It was crazy. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to win some of those people back over by explaining that Roseanne Barr and Eddie Bravo are nuts.
I saw the first part of this, Carl. It was very entertaining. I mean, it's really like they're trying to out nutty each other, aren't they?
Well, it's great because I've seen Eddie Bravo on a bunch of different shows, And Roseanne was coming up with theories, and I saw Eddie going, well, that's crazy. I've never seen Eddie react that way to anything anyone's ever said. Just like, wow, that's out there, Roseanne, really? So at a certain point, because Roseanne, listen, I love Roseanne Barr. And, we've covered her show on this show before.
Yeah,
she's got her
cool.
son, Jake. She's getting up there in age, and she's getting a little weird. So at a certain point, Eddie decides to take over and start interviewing her. And so my clip number one, he's asking about how she started stand-up comedy all those years ago.
So how did you get into doing stand-up comedy?
By having multiple personality disorder.
For real?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about you were two different people and you didn't know?
Two is a novel concept.
Wait a minute. How many personalities did you have?
18.
I have no idea.
You had 18.
I had about 20 of them.
And they had different names?
Yes.
Inside they did, but I didn't tell nobody what their names
She's a
were
system.
because I didn't even know half the time who was there. Half the time I'd wake up and find myself someplace I had no fucking idea what I was doing there for.
Wow.
So, apparently, Roseanne was, like, as you said, a DID system. This is a new thing, dissociative identity disorder. It's where you have alters, and alters come to the surface. And so you're constantly not only different people, but you can be different species, obviously different genders, different all sorts of
Ages.
things. And there's this one that we cover on Who Are These Socials? She's a TikToker named Solar, which is appropriate. She's a system. Anyway, Solar comes on as all of her different alters on TikTok and is constantly schooling all of us dummies about how all of this works. Now, unlike Roseanne,
I think that's pretty
they
cool.
all have
I think
shared memories.
it's
They know
cool
what's
though
going
that
on.
each one of her personalities knows how to use TikTok and has the login and everything.
They all have the same phone, which
Yeah.
is they share, which is good.
It's not like she turns it on and off. They just come to life. Oh, I'm going to do a TikTok, even though this part of me just did one 20 seconds ago.
My favorite part of discovering these DID systems is the fact that Solar is an example, and we've seen others, where they're actually interspecies. So she has a couple of different alters that are birds. I think there's 3 of them that are birds. And then someone asked the question, could one of your alters be a different race? And she's like, no, definitely not. That is so racist. How dare you even bring that up?
Well, that's such an act.
Makes sense.
Oh boy.
Why not? Okay. So that's why Roseanne started stand-up, because she had multiple personalities. Doesn't make any sense, but why not? All right, let's get into my track number 4. Roseanne wears this shirt around that says, we lost, or all is lost, or something like that. She's talking about the New World Order, and she has some information that nobody else has about this.
Was this number 2?
Number 4, I'm sorry.
Number 4. Hang on. Sorry. Here we go.
Press.
What makes you think that? Like inside scoop or just a feeling?
I was hooked into a vision of what happened in the future, in the very short future.
Interesting.
I was hooked into a vision.
Okay.
I don't think it was through my dental implants, because I never did get them yet. That's why I didn't get them, because I know they're going to put a chip in it. So that's why I don't have, see? Now I'm trying to figure out what I can put there so that it doesn't show.
Wait, hold on. What's this? What's the vision? I want to hear about this. You had a vision of the future. Mm-hmm. And what was this vision? This is
It's the
fascinating.
end of the world type stuff.
Yeah. This is getting dark.
And it's based off a vision. Okay, it's not based on some intel that you have. Right.
Just her mind.
Because if it was based on like intel,
No, That would
be
I'm like, dude, it would be.
No, it is based on intel.
Really?
That's great.
She's had a vision based on intel. She was pointing to this thing. It wasn't in her teeth like you guys thought.
Yeah.
She disproved that right away.
Wow.
But I love that she's all ready to like go off on another subject, and Jake has to be like, all right, Roseanne, great. But Mom, you got to tell us about this vision. You just brought it up. Please let us know what's going on here. So they're on pins and needles, as this listening audience is as well. So my track number 5. Come on, Roseanne, tell us what happened.
You've got to
that,
explain. You're leaving it out there. You're freaking us out.
You got to
you mean
figure
that?
the shit out yourself.
No, you
and
can't.
I think you just did. You went
can't
in
do
that
that.
direction.
Did we? Did we though figure it out?
Oh, end of
I
the
said
world.
end of the world.
Yeah,
I don't
it must have
know.
been that.
Yeah. So literally, she goes, "You have to figure it out for yourself." It's like, yeah, but I'm not seeing the vision. Because can you just tell me
It's
what you
your-
saw? It's not
yeah.
like I can buy a ticket to go see it.
It's
I don't
your
know.
vision. It's
hear this
your
prophecy.
intel. Yeah.
Is she kind of making this up as she goes along? It seems like she latched onto
How dare-
intel as soon as he
how
said
dare-
intel.
How dare you, Drew?
Sorry.
She goes on to say that the bad guys, who in this case is the New World Order, probably the Illuminati's in there too. They didn't use that word, but I am. They are going to lose. She goes, "Don't worry, they're going to lose in the end." And Jake says, "And your predictions are pretty accurate." She goes, "Oh yeah, they're 1,000%."
1,000.
And I think that it's funny because look, we all like baseball, so we understand what batting 1,000 means, but that's not really a statistic in real life. You can't be 1,000% correct about something. By the way, the end of that Braves game, were you guys watching that last night?
How about that
Wild
catch?
ending. Wild ending.
Wow,
That was
and
cool.
the home runs and the top of the inning before that, and then holy shit,
That was awesome. I wonder if she saw that coming.
1,000%.
Yeah. If she says these visions, why isn't she gambling more?
Absolutely.
knows?
Oh, it's
might be.
crazy.
All right, so now
She
let's
might
talk
be.
about.
Did you just say she might,
She might be. Maybe she's
might
making lots
be.
of money.
That's a great
doing well.
concept. Yeah.
So now, Roseanne, they start talking about Russell Brand. And Roseanne is immediately like, "Oh, I know what's going on with Russell Brand." And I think this is interesting because in my track number 6 here, she has very much a Mitch McConnell moment, which I realize is going to sound bad to our listeners, but just trust me, the camera is on Roseanne as she's trying to form her next thought.
Oh no.
Thank you.
Everybody, including Russell Brand, had to know that things were going to come out one day because they were in the papers.
Right.
Duh. So he had to
Yeah. Yeah.
Buffering.
Go on.
Oh, she blinked.
rebrand.
Rebrand.
So you think he did things that were wrong?
I read about the original
Accusation.
accuser.
Okay. So what are you saying that he did knowing it was going to come out?
Uh-oh.
I think he.
Is this another? This is a vision.
Dead silence is great for a podcast.
It's like I don't know what he chose. Could have been one of two things. That I mean, if he was guilty, he would act one way, and if he's innocent, he'd act another.
That's everybody.
That's how you got to break people's behavior down, is by what they do.
You take forever to say nothing.
And I was excited to hear her take on Russell Brand, and then it turned out she had nothing, and she would just be like, "You know what? I don't know. I'm sorry. I should have brought it up."
Yeah, I would expect her to have intel. I mean, she just
Right.
she just read the papers.
So after all of that, she's looking over at Eddie Bravo because her son's going, "I don't know, understand what you're saying, Mom." She looks over at Eddie and goes, "Well, you get it, right?" So this is my track number 7 that we're trying to clear all of this up here.
I still don't. I'm still confused what you're getting at.
Really? Are you confused?
Yeah. You can be honest, Eddie.
A little bit,
Yeah.
but not that much. It's all confusing. Like it seems like
It's all confusing.
Well, they did a documentary about it on the BBC called something like the Russell Brand documentary, which they've recently pulled. The BBC has pulled it. And every time you go to look for it, well, it's been removed.
It wasn't the BBC though, right?
It's not a documentary either, isn't it? Shows he was on.
The BBC pulled his shows, but in the documentary where they interviewed him, I think was on what, ITV or a different British network. So she's just
Yeah, it was
mixing
on Channel 4.
There you go. Yeah, she's just
That's why
mixing.
she can't find it when she's looking at
Because she's going to the BBC looking for anything Russell, and they scrubbed it.
Yeah, that could be it.
I admire Eddie Bravo's interest in everything, though.
He's trying hard.
I just think he's a little too gullible.
I love when her son asks him, you don't lie to her. If you don't know what she's talking about, just say it.
I like her son. I feel bad for him. I mean, he's doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
He's a patient man.
He
That
is, yes.
for sure.
Well, he also probably has no other income.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, he's the
They
kid.
both talk about how there's this guy named Derek Johnson, who I guess is a QAnon podcaster. I am not familiar with it, but she brings that up, and Jake's like, "Oh yeah, that's all she listens to all day, every day."
No.
She goes, "Oh, I've listened to every episode," and of course, you got Eddie on there going, "Yeah, I know. I almost listen to all of his stuff." You know, so they're completely on the same page with all this stuff. So now we're gonna get into who is running Q. And this is news to me. My track number 8, we're going to learn something together.
Don't buy into anything.
Check this out. This could be like really on one level.
However, if you know anything about Q, which you don't, obviously.
Me or Eddie?
No, I'm talking to everyone within the sound of my living voice. If you know anything at all about Q, you will know that it is a military, it is run by the military intelligence, and
Ron Watkins?
And then that's
they have
for
a
sure.
plan that you ain't the general of. So just try to be aware of what's happening in front of your fucking stupid face
Whoa.
first. I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking to myself.
Right.
Okay. All right. Boy, that was all over the place there.
The first thing she said there was, "Don't buy into anything, but I will tell you this one thing I do know about Q. It's being run by the military intelligence."
Wow. Okay.
All right, let's get into flat. I teased it earlier. Let's get into some flat Earth talk. Sure.
Yeah.
This is the fun stuff. Now, Drew, I know you're into Scientology. How much do you get into flat Earth talk?
Not much really. I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I just thought it was pretty well established, so I never really troubled myself.
Okay. Well, one of the things that
I mean,
flat Earthers
established that the Earth was round.
Yeah,
I thought it had been
It
established.
seems like we figured that out hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, you've been on a plane before, right?
I wasn't going to revisit it. I wasn't planning on it, but then I was fascinated to hear there were people saying that no, we do have a flat Earth at this point in time. Quite surprised me.
Yeah. So one of the things that flat earthers believe, and they all believe different things, but for the most part, the consensus is the sun is about 5,000 miles away.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
So my track number 9, this is where Eddie starts laughing about what we dummies think.
We're in some kind of electromagnetic realm. And
We are.
And those lights in the sky, they're closer than you think. So
Yeah.
the sun is not 93 million miles away.
This is flat
93 million miles away. Look at that thing. That thing's right there. 93 million. It's retarded.
But yeah, you
they have
get
no proof of it.
sunburned.
And they have no proof of it. They have no-
Yeah, you get sunburned after an hour.
Oh my
My
God.
favorite is Roseanne and Sis. She's like, no, that's a good point. How would you get a sunburn if it's 93 million miles away? That's a really good point. All right. So one of the things that they were talking about earlier in the episode, and I clipped this on the episode of Who Are These Podcasts, it's up on our YouTube channel. Drew said he saw it, is he's talking about it's hard to measure curvature on Earth because of the topography. There's valleys and mountains and things. But on the ocean, it should be, if it's curved, you should be able to detect that curvature very easily. And I screwed up the formula, and I even said, maybe I'm screwing this up. I haven't been to a math class in a while. But what he said was that for every mile, there's a curvature of 8 inches for every mile squared. And I didn't realize that it was every 8 inches per mile, parentheses, squared after the fact. So I thought he was talking about square miles. So then I was thinking, okay, so it's 8 inches for every mile. Anyway, I got it wrong. Whatever, doesn't matter. So he's going to explain that he can prove that the Earth is flat based on the fact that on the ocean, 100 miles, you should be able to not see that at all.
At 100 feet on the 100 miles in the water, there should be at approximately 6,000 feet of curvature.
Okay.
So, but there's How do you explain Navy ships laser targeting other ships at 100 miles an hour? There's like, that proves we're on some level shit. They're not accounting for curvature. Lasers don't curve.
Who gives a shit about any of
this
that?
is a good point, but
We're on a lake or spinning on a ball. It doesn't matter to you.
The most
You want the
important
truth
thing.
about everything, but not the most important thing? What? That's the most important thing.
Is it?
Yes. What are we on? What is this?
If you're in a simulated
yeah.
planet that's not in the
Oh,
universe,
we're not-
We are.
You can't be. That's the most important thing.
Did he say Navy ships 100 miles away?
Yeah. So
I
he
can't
says
see a
there's-
Navy ship 100 miles away anyway.
No, but he's saying they use lasers, not satellites. They use lasers to mark other.
I don't think that's true.
I don't
though.
think
Do you
it's
think
true
they're
at
pointing
all.
a laser at the target? I don't think that's how they're doing that for 100 miles.
No, not at all.
I looked up the range of a laser pointer, and it's like 200 yards. They have some really powerful ones.
It's not
that can maybe
military grade.
a
Yeah.
mile or two from an airplane, but
I'm so with Roseanne, though. I don't fucking care. Stop talking about this.
oh, it's great. She's just like, oh, we're back on flat Earth stuff. Who gives a crap? He's like, that's the most important thing. The Earth is flat. Is where you got to start with all of this stuff. Like, okay, my bad. Let's get into it. So they start talking about space. Does he believe in space? Is space real? And then the question comes up about satellites, because when you think about space, satellites are in space. We all use satellites every day in our lives. So what's the deal with that?
God, and and all pictures and video of space is CGI. There's no real pictures.
You don't
There's
think
no
we
real
really
picture.
went to the moon or took
No, of
pictures?
course not. He
that was
doesn't
all
believe that.
fake.
There's no way
Okay,
he
but
believes.
there's no
Super
orbiting
fake.
satellites going around.
The satellites are on balloons. They've always been on balloons. On the 50s.
This is what I wanted.
I can prove it to you.
Here we go,
Really?
guys.
Okay,
I'm getting another
okay,
drink.
keep going.
Satellites are on balloons. They've always been on balloons. Like in the
Okay.
50s, you watch old military. You can watch the video. They're like, this is what they did. They put them up on giant balloon satellites, and then they bounce. You know, that was a huge military tactic.
Tactic. It was also the
Roseanne is
1950s.
uncomfortable with this theory.
Even that's a step too far for her.
Yeah, she's like, you sure about this? That
Carl,
sounds
how many
crazy.
views does Eddie Bravo get? Or Roseanne?
How many what?
How many views does this show get?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me look it up real quick.
No, it's okay. We can look it up.
No, I do want to look that up, but
Brandon's on it.
While
Yeah.
I'm doing that, we start to get into Antarctica talk. Now, if you know anything about flat earthers, they believe that there's a wall around the known Earth, the Earth that we all live in, and it's 200 feet tall. It's an ice wall, and so the Antarctica is all around. It's a circumference, which seems far-fetched, but this is the theory they have, and he gets into this.
That's why we have that. You asked me about the Antarctic Treaty. You can't go to the Antarctica without a government fucking license. And if you make it, you prove you're a scientist. They put you on a little peninsula. They got a pole. You get to see a little penguins. Oh, let's go see the leopard seal. And that's it. They put you on a little thing, and then they send you back. That's how they got everybody. You can't independently travel through Antarctica. They got military all surrounding it.
Not true.
Don't they do cruises to Antarctica?
Yeah,
Yes,
there's
they
people
do.
who walk the length of it too.
Yeah.
The Antarctica treaty stops you from vacationing there. Otherwise, our wives would be like, let's go to Antarctica this year. And I'm like, no, there's a treaty. I can't go there. I'm sorry. I wanted to. But
Oh, God. LaDuff, we had a flat earther on LaDuff's show, and the best part about it was no matter what evidence you would show him,
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't. There is an answer for everything, and it's kind of hilarious and frustrating all at the same time. It's like, all right, you got an answer. That's fine. He's a good guy. It's just one of those things where it's like, all right, okay.
well, one of my favorite theories that I heard, and I don't think that most flat earthers believe this, but the idea that the sun, comes up in the east, sets in the west, where is it going? If there's a flat earth, the sun's over us. Why are we not seeing it? And one guy talked about the Pac-Man theory. Now, in Pac-Man, if you go off one side of the board, you come in on the other side. And they're like, Look, can we explain it? No, but it's the Pac-Man theory. That's what happens.
But wait, isn't it all CGI anyway? That's what I'm confused about. If the sun's only 5,000 miles away, but satellites are CGI, like what's the screen?
No,
So-
he said all photos of space.
all
are
photos.
CGI.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes, all of those specs.
Very-
I've done a lot of studying on
Very
flat
important.
Earth. It's fascinating. But other people like to say that the Earth spins around. If you think about the UN symbol, that's kind of like what the flat earthers think the Earth is, and they think that the sun spins around in a circle around this, and
yeah.
they're like, well, anything that goes off on the horizon for too far, you won't see it anymore. But if there's a ball of light in the sky and you're on a flat surface, even if it's just 5,000 miles above, you would have to be able to see it at all times.
Sure.
It's always above us. I mean, I would think. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm sure there's an answer.
I'm with you.
All right. Well,
got your
apparently
back.
in 1946, Admiral Richard Byrd went down to explore Antarctica, and he had some very interesting findings. My track 13 talks about that.
There was at least
breakaway
one
continent.
continent as big as the United States was found without ice on the other by Admiral Byrd.
That's
He's
correct.
He's on
You are
TV
correct,
talking about
sir.
it.
You are correct.
There's at
sir.
least land that doesn't
Yes.
have. So there's probably
Yes.
a bunch of land everywhere.
Tell it.
They got to contain. Oh, we're spinning through space.
What's the point
miles
of
an
the
hour.
round Earth theory? Like what is
It
what?
keeps us.
That's a great
it
question.
kills God. We're a speck.
Okay.
We're a speck.
Interesting.
And they had.
How does it kill
Yeah,
God?
thank
Because
you,
then it's
Roseanne.
all,
Because how could God didn't talk about no galaxy?
Pretty good point. Got us there, Eddie.
How do we know?
How do you respond to it?
Maybe he did talk about galaxies and no one wrote it down.
Good point. So, according to him, and this is what we learned in the first episode I did, is that the reason why they don't want us to go to Antarctica is because there's a wall. And I always thought the other side of the wall, you fall off the edge. But no, there's more Earth. I don't know if we're going for infinity or what, but he said there's more continents. There's one the size of the United States. Now, if this guy in 1946 flew his plane there, how would he know the size of the continent on the other side of Antarctica? So I did some research on this Richard Byrd, because it turns out he claims to have photographic evidence of this secret crystal city under the continent.
Cool.
And that actually ties into the hollow Earth theory. And there are people who think that ties into space aliens. And now Eddie Bravo's here saying it has to do with flat Earth. I'm not buying it. I think it's the hollow Earth theory, Eddie. You're
Ridiculous.
full of shit. I know, it's so crazy.
I love it.
Fun stuff, though. So the one thing that I don't think that Roseanne needs is more whiskey.
Oh,
But apparently she needs a little bit more whiskey. And I like that Jake calls her out and she lashes back in track 14 here.
I got you more whiskey if you want it.
Oh,
too.
where's mine?
It's right there on the
Here,
table.
give me a little bit.
I'm
oh,
just-
I haven't even finished it.
I never realized
I
flat
want
Earth
more.
was a like a theological theory.
No,
like
that's
a pro
more than
God.
enough.
Oh yeah,
Thank you, dear.
she's got her stomach was stapled. She can't
Stop
do it.
telling people that. They're
Everyone
all
knows
talking about
that.
needing my anus restapled after giving birth to you.
They don't staple
and the
anuses.
hemorrhoids you caused me with your 10-pound ab.
I'm just saying you don't have a normal stomach, so you can't drink that much. I'm looking out for you.
that's great.
Stop telling everyone that. It's our secret, Jake. What are you doing?
She actually doesn't look that bad if you compare her to 20 years ago.
Oh, she's not looking great.
No, she doesn't look great. But I mean,
She's all yours, Drew.
remember when she weighed about 300 pounds?
Yes.
Yeah. So Eddie goes on, because you hear that I didn't realize this was attached to theology. Eddie goes on to explain that almost all flat earthers believe in God, whether it's Jesus or not varies, and how much they believe in it. And he even said, he goes, when you're talking to people about flat earth, you can't bring up Jesus. It turns people off. You got to start with all the facts, and then eventually you get around. It's almost like Scientology. Eventually you get around to Xenu and that kind of stuff, but they got to be all in at that point. You got to be heavily invested. And then they talk about Flat Earth Society, which was created to make flat earthers seem dumb. No flat earthers are a part of the Flat Earth Society.
Wow.
So if you do Google flat earth, that's the first thing that shows up, because Google wants to send out this misinformation and throw you off the scent.
How devious.
Well, this is the thing that I always say. I've had a bunch of flat earthers contact me, and I want to read you some of the comments underneath our YouTube video that we put up last week, because it's crazy. But someone was on there on our Creep Off episode yesterday, and they're like, hey, Karl, can you prove with science that the Earth is round? So that's like one of their big gotchas because they're like, oh, prove that the Earth is round then. You know, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, I suppose. But my big thing is this.
Did you attack it, Karl? Did you go for it?
No, I didn't. This is my big thing when it comes to flat earthers, is that every single person who's ever flown an airplane, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people at this point. Not a single one of them that I know of, maybe they're being suppressed, not a single one of them has come out and just been like, by the way, this is all bullshit. You can actually just fly any which way we want. We're going the long way just to make it seem like there's a curvature of the Earth, but it would be so much easier just to fly over the North Pole for everything we do.
Well, what about Admiral Byrd?
He did it.
Admiral Byrd
did not say that the Earth was flat.
Oh, okay, but he has that photo.
Just the crystal city that's hiding underneath Antarctica.
What about those people that have gone up in those satellite balloons? Did they ever look at the curvature of the Earth? No. I love that. Prove that it's round, not that we have to prove that it's flat.
I've literally heard that they say that the windows in an airplane have a curvature to them, so it appears that the Earth is curved. God, there's a lot of work going into this.
But the
Now
conspiracy
manufacturers have to be in on it too.
Go up in a
is,
hot
it's-
air balloon then, Jesus.
It's not worth the conspiracy. Isn't worth it. It's too much work.
What does it matter?
Give it up, round earthers.
It's too much work. Well, the other thing that they say, and this is what Eddie Bravo was saying, he goes, they want you to think you're going 1,000,000 miles per hour at all given times in different directions because we're spinning and we're orbiting, but also the galaxy is expanding. So we're going in all these different directions. And I pointed out the fact that it's all relative. And he loves to say how many miles something is or miles per hour. Like, miles don't mean anything in space. That's not a measurement of distance in space. It doesn't matter how far 5,000 feet is.
I know. Hasn't he ever seen Star Wars? Right? They don't use those measurements.
No,
They use
of course not.
parsecs. Yeah.
Yes. So my point was that, well, you know, it's all relative. You can go 500 miles per hour in an airplane, feels very different than going 500 miles per hour on a motorcycle. But someone pointed out to me that actually, Karl, the reason why it's dumb is because your body doesn't feel velocity, it feels acceleration. So if you're on something, if you're on a school bus and you're sitting there reading, your body doesn't know that it's traveling 55 miles per hour per se. You don't feel that. But if it was speeding up towards something, if you're on a race car, you can feel the acceleration.
Great point.
So it's like, oh, it actually
It's
makes
fascinating.
a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
This sounds very nerdy.
All right, so let me just read some of the comments I got underneath this video where I was calling out Eddie Bravo for thinking the Earth is flat. So wait, so Karl's just a dumb guy? Earth is flat, yo.
Well, that proves it.
This is one. Earth is flat, though. How much did you get paid to make this hit piece?
Idiot.
And then Earth is flat. Karl, if you want to run with the big dogs, you better know how to piss in the tall grass. Science? How about you cannot have a spinning ball of water and gas that is inside a vacuum? That's proven principles of thermodynamics, and water doesn't bend and always finds its level. You're out of your league. All right, are we good on flat Earth? Can we move on to another theory?
This is great,
You
though.
guys familiar with terrain theory?
Oh, no, but I'd love to learn.
What's terrain theory?
All right, let's find out. Track 15, Eddie's going to explain this to us.
What's terrain theory?
There's germ theory, which I'm no fucking microbiologist, but
Oh, great.
germ
not.
theory is what we generally
Good starting
believe
point.
in.
Right.
We can get people, like people can get people sick.
Right.
Of
If you're
course.
sick, you can get them sick.
Oh, they're planting the germs everywhere.
Right.
Or I say put it in the seeds.
Terrain theory, based on doctors going back, they're all over the place now.
Yeah.
I have it on my,
No.
on my pod. Doctors going back and going through all the documents and all the paperwork of polio, Spanish flu,
Yeah.
the vaccine, the whole process of the vaccine.
are
You go
doomed.
through all that
We are
shit,
doomed.
and they're going, oh my God, they were just faking all that shit.
We are doomed.
Oh, so terrain theory is that
Terrain
what?
theory is people don't get people sick. You guys get sick from the same thing.
Okay, but not
Yeah.
it's not
You
communicable.
don't get
from
each other
person.
sick.
Okay.
You got
get
sick
from the same thing.
and then a day later you get sick. You think he got you sick. No, you guys,
That's
you just
what
felt
I think.
it a day later.
Oh, I didn't know this was a thing. I believe this.
Yeah.
So next time Trudy doesn't want to show up because Brandon has COVID, tell her she's an idiot. You can't catch germs from other people.
Yeah, I'm sure of terrain theory. So I love the way her son. Oh, he thought this was already a thing. I was onto that. What are you trying to explain to me for? I'm totally into terrain theory.
Well, this is crazy. I had never heard this theory before, so I looked it up, and it's not quite what Eddie Bravo just explained from my quick research, but he does have proof that this is true. My track number 16 is going to explain it.
Why is it not going here? Uh-oh, it's a bad file.
Oh, it's a bad file?
Yeah, it's 0 seconds, yeah.
Track number 16
See?
apparently not working.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
Okay. So he goes on to say that the reason why people get sick is because of the things that we eat and ingest. And so if you're eating food that's processed or has pesticides, that's why people get sick. It's not from germs that are being spread around from person to person, which
So no one got sick before processed foods?
That's what I was going to say. Like the plague was probably a big deal. A third of the planet died from it.
All those potato chips they were eating back then.
Yeah, so I don't know. I got to do some more research into this to figure out why he thinks that the terrain theory is even possible.
Wow,
It seems
okay.
silly to me.
It seems like longevity has gotten a little bit better since processed foods overall.
Maybe
Or
in spite
medicine.
of.
Yeah. Think how much better it would be without them, Drew.
Yeah,
You're
true.
right. Think about that. All right, let's change gears now because let's talk about the border wall. We all know that Roseanne is big into conservative politics, and I want to find out these Democrats who want open borders. What's their deal? Why do they want such a thing? In my track 17, we learn.
That file's not working too. Hang on, let me double check.
Mother.
That's another 0 second file.
You're right. Oh, damn it. That was a fun one, too.
Oh, do you have it as 0 too? Yeah, it's only 132. So, yeah.
I'll explain it. I'll explain what she talks about. So it turns out because Eddie Bravo's like, if you look at what the Democrats were saying back in even just the 90s, they're like, yeah, we can let people into the country. We got to vet them first. So just letting people into the country just willy-nilly seems crazy to me. And I think it seems crazy to everyone. And so Roseanne says, well, yeah, it's because the Democrats are Satan worshipers. And they work with the other Satan worshipers. And he was like, oh, yeah, no, I know. They work with like they get like right into like Satan worship. And that's why the borders are open. I was just like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. That's fun. That was a fun one. All right. Well, since I've let us down in the last two clips, let's find one. My track number 3. This is going back earlier in the conversation. So Roseanne is talking about the late 80s. When there was still a thing called freedom of speech. We've forgotten that in this country, but there used to be a thing that was the law of the land. And I'm pretty sure if you listen to this, you don't have to listen that closely. I'm pretty sure she's calling Eddie Bravo dumb.
Speech. It was way different then, but not that. But I can understand how people of your subset of the change of the generations as they perfect the perfect docile worker for communism. I can see how they have decreased the ability of the person to think as a person.
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Your subset. It's pretty much of an insult, I would say.
Yeah, I can see why your generation wouldn't think for themselves. You're a bunch of idiots. Yeah, I can see that too. Good call.
Although it really does sound like Eddie is thinking for himself on a lot of issues.
I don't know. I think he's being fed this stuff and believing all of it. 'Cause I don't think he came up with flat Earth.
Did you find out how many people watch this show, Karl?
Yeah, 71,000 views on this episode alone.
Yeah, and
really
some
good.
episodes hit about 100,000 on YouTube alone.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
People like Eddie Bravo, so I'm not surprised by that. But I did just notice as I was doing that search that my buddy Alex Stein was on with Roseanne.
Really?
I'll have to check that out. He's always fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun on there. I do have one more track that we can play here. And Roseanne is talking about meeting a bunch of famous people when she was starting to make her way up in show business. And she claims that she pooped a little when she met Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney. She's like, I think I pooped my pants.
Well, she needed to get her anus fixed.
When I met them. Yeah, right. Yeah,
got
it's all
stitched
Jake's
up yet.
fault. Good point. But then she throws out a name, the most famous person she was all excited to meet. And Eddie Bravo, I thought maybe he's younger than I am. He's actually older than I am. I feel like Eddie should have known this one.
I thought he was older than you.
He is.
How old is he? About
He's 53.
50. Wow, he looks good for 53.
I met Salman Rushdie. My jaw was on the floor.
I don't know who that is.
I know. It doesn't matter.
But what, explain who he is.
Come
So-
on.
I know Salman Rushdie hasn't been as big in the news as he used to be, but
Except he was just
attacked
stabbed.
last year.
Yeah.
He wrote satanic verses. They had a fatwa against him. You should at least know
Yeah.
that from Larry David.
Yeah, from Curb.
Curb Your
Yeah.
Enthusiasm.
Right,
Fatwa
yeah.
sex.
But he was stabbed in the eyeball last
Yes.
August. That was kind of a big
It's
deal.
a huge story.
No, you'd think you would know the name at least. But maybe he's so busy with these conspiracy theories, he doesn't have time for people like Salman Rushdie.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. Drew, currently on Who Are These Podcasts? If you would tune in to the latest episode, we're talking about Girls Next Level, which contains two of Hugh Hefner's exes
Oh, no.
who were on Girls Next Door. Bridget
two?
and Holly are breaking
Oh,
down the old
God.
episodes of the E-reality show.
Right.
Oh,
But no
God.
Kendra.
Yeah,
'cause
Kendra is on the outs with them.
She's
She
too
wants nothing to do
classy.
with them.
She's way too classy.
You know, it's funny though. They spent so long selling us on how in love with Hef they were, and how sexy he was, and how great it was to be banging this 80-year-old with two other chicks. And now all they're doing is telling us how fun it was not.
Yeah. In fact, there's a certain point where Holly is breaking down. They have this 80th birthday party for Hugh, and she's breaking down the rules around what she was allowed to do. She had to sit next to Hef the entire time at the table. She was allowed to get up and dance, but she couldn't go too far away, and she could only do that if other girls were dancing or if Hef got up to dance a little bit. It was like very strict on what she was allowed to do.
Weird.
And she's like, you know what? Now that I look back at it, it was a bit controlling. Kind of a controlling environment.
Oh, but she swore she loved it at the time because no one believed. They see three really hot 20-year-olds with this 80-year-old man. You're like, well, you can't really. Oh no, we love it. It's all so stupid. Them proclaiming they loved it at the time and now insisting they didn't because
Now-
I believe
Right.
them.
Now shitting on what made them famous in the
Yeah,
first place.
exactly.
Yeah.
And-
By the
and-
way, everyone was celebrating Hugh Hefner that entire time. What an amazing guy he is. We can't change that now just because he died. My wife's been watching that whole docuseries about what a piece of shit
Yeah.
Hugh Hefner was throughout the years.
Oh, he
It's
murdered
guys,
people.
it's too late. Too late for that now.
Exactly. No, they
Window.
spent so long celebrating him. He was so wonderful, and all the chicks just loved whatever part of his orbit they were. And
Although
now,
I do
it
have
was
to say
all
that-
abuse.
The shitty thing about this podcast is the description is we're going to break down the craziest party to ever happen at the Playboy Mansion. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is a pretty crazy place. What's going on? And they start getting into the celebrities, and I was shocked to hear that Bill Maher was there. Wow, what are the chances? But they're going through. I mean, Donald Trump was there, and they're naming off all these people, and then they have zero stories.
Oh,
They don't
God.
because they're not involved in any of this shit. They're hanging out with half the whole fucking time. They don't know what's going on.
I thought it was funny that Bill Maher was there so much. He actually has credits on multiple episodes of the women, ladies next door, or whatever it was called.
They go, it must be all over his IMDb page. So I'm like, oh, let me look that up. Yep, it sure is. And so is the spinoff. Kendra Knows Best. And
Karl, with
funny.
Jocktober, you got started with Bob and Tom. Do you have some other big shows scheduled for Jocktober?
why, yes, I do, Drew. That was it, just like we rehearsed it. Tomorrow, I'm breaking down the John Boy and Billy Big show.
Oh,
still on.
excellent.
It is still on. Yes.
Good show. You know what? I listened to them when I was in Charlotte, just coming up in radio. I got a job in Charlotte. It was like, oh my God, I'm on my way. I'm in the big city. And John Boy and Billy were just starting at RFX in Charlotte. And I got to tell you, they were really good at the time. I thought they were very funny. They're very Southern. But the fact they're still doing it is kind of amazing. Not as
can't
amazing
wait
as
to break
Bob
it
and
down.
Tom, but amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to break it down. By the way, the Bob and Tom, I mean, obviously you must feel good about the fact that they're still using Bob and Tom, even though Bob retired 8 years ago at this point.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they were named Bob and Tom since 1984 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's very, I guess they could be the Tom Griswold show. It's not quite as catchy, but I had never really seen that show until I saw it on your show. I'd never seen the studio and the way it was set up. And I guess are they really having any fun in that show? I got the impression
there's
it's just.
no way. The newswoman looks like she's so put off by everything. And then you get that wacky guy with the guitar and the keyboard.
Oh,
who has to
he's
go up there and-
terrible.
Well, he gets to sing his little parody song.
No, the show looks much more scripted than a 4-hour talk radio show, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then you got Chick McGee, who's
Yeah.
the sports guy.
Great name
on
for a
there.
sports guy, but that's about where it ends.
They have 11 main cast members in that show. 11.
Yes, including Tom's son. It's one of the cast members on there.
Yeah, I saw him doing some stand-up on your with his
it wasn't great.
podcast.
Hey, I was reading about John Boy and Billy here. They record their morning show in the afternoon.
They do.
Smart.
Yeah, that's what it says. They record in the afternoon and then it runs back 6 to 10.
Because they don't want to get up.
Aren't they going to?
You guys do? What are you talking about? What are we complaining about?
Yeah, I
here?
guess we do too.
Well, we're not on a radio station other than WLLZ on Saturday and Sunday morning.
Yeah,
but
people
that's
can listen to us
known.
right when we're done.
Yeah, our show's out. It's available when you.
I mean,
I mean,
that's weird. I don't know.
That's
weird.
really
A lot
interesting.
of stuff can happen overnight.
yeah, probably most of the time it doesn't matter, and I suspect with their interest, it probably doesn't matter that much either because they love comedians, they love NASCAR, they love sports. they
Super
love-
Bowl Monday must be a blast on that show.
Yeah, I wonder if they make an exception.
They
for
have
that.
to, right? Yeah.
They better. Or they record it after the Super Bowl, like we do. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I look forward to John Boy and Billy, and actually, it was fun to have Jocktober back. That was a great show with Bob and Tom. I enjoyed that.
I really enjoy it too. Like a lot of these morning shows all kind of run together. There's a lot of things you can complain about that are similar. So I'm not doing it every episode in October, but I have been enjoying going back and listening to some old radio shows that are still doing it, have the podcast versions, trying to get the video thing going. So that'll be fun. John Boy and Billy Big Show. Whoarethese.com is where you can go to find all things Who Are These podcasts. And just remember, kids, Fauci started COVID and the earth is round. All right.
All right, Carl.
Thanks, Karl.
Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.